Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning I bid to all of you. My name is Muhamad Irsyaduddin Zulkifli. My matric number is 057066 and I'm from band 3A. So today I'm going to talk about distinguishing fact and an opinion. So guys, what is an opinion or a fact? A fact is something that is reliable, that comes from experts and researchers, which is proven to be true. Meanwhile, an opinion is someone's thoughts upon something which is not beyond reasonable doubt and it is debatable. To further explain this matter, let me give you an example. For example of fact, we know that Langston Hughes' poem titled The Negro Speaks by Rivers mentioned 4 rivers in it, and it is proven in the poems. Meanwhile, the example of on an opinion that river is the symbolism of significance in the poem. 2 types of opinion, by the way. The first one is the supported opinion, which comes with example, facts, or quotations. Meanwhile, the unsupported opinion, just a statement which is not backed by any kind of proof. Let me explain further. For supported opinion, the statement previously, I added a few examples and facts in it, which it is read by this. Rivers have symbolic significance. In Langston Hughes' poems, the Negro speak of rivers. In the poem, the speaker mentions 4 rivers, which is the Euphrates, the Congo, the Nile, and the Mississippi. According to the speaker, these rivers are as ancient as the world and as old as the flow of human blood in human veins. Through their associations with the black experience, these particular rivers are linked not only to the speaker's African roots, but also to the racial situation in America at the time the poem was written. For the unsupported opinion, the statement is just, rivers have symbolic significance in the poem of Langston Hughes titled The Negro Speak of Rivers. As I mentioned earlier, that your opinion can be supported by quotations, examples, and experts' opinion. These 3 may play a role in making your audience believe what your opinion is. For example, in the example that you can put in your opinion is, in the play The Glass Menagerie, Jean's focus on the future challenge Amanda's unrealistic romantic dreams of the past. For example, when Jean comes to the dinner, she dreams of entertaining him in the old Sultan tradition, but he talks enthusiastically of the promise the future holds. The next one, quotations. Although Gertrude is Queen of Denmark, she is also a devoted mother. In her efforts to console her son, she speaks tenderly. Good Hamlet casts day knighted color off. She also conveys a wisdom about life. Though knows this common, all that live must die, passing through nature to eternity. For the last one, expert opinion, throughout the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper, a number of clues suggest that the narrator may be delusional. According to Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar in Mad Woman in the Attic, the woman writer and the 19th century literary imagination, the extent of the narrator's dislike for the wallpaper should serve as an early warning that she is not responding well to her treatment and that she may be in fact losing her mind. So that's all from me for the elaboration on opinion. Moving on to the next presenter. Thank you. Please.
And hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Fakhri bin Muhammad Apandi, matrix number 055615. So today I will be talking about evaluating supporting evidence. So first, example, quotation and opinion must be provided to support the statements constitute evidence. The more reliable the supporting evidence, the more willing your reader to accept the statement. There are 4 criteria for a reliable statement. First, accurate. Second, sufficient. Third, representative. And last one is relevant. So, first, accurate. To be accurate, your statement must come from a trustworthy sources. Does not present the information that is out of context. Present the example, quotation, and expert opinion fairly, drawing them from other reliable content or sources. And last one, trustworthy sources include full documentation for information it take from other sources. Next, sufficient. Contain enough information to support your conclusion. Second, must use multiple citation to prove the statement. And third, opinion from a single literary critic, no matter how reputable or how well known the single literary critic is, are not enough to support the statement. Next, we will move on to the representative criteria. It must reflect a range of sources and viewpoint. You also never have to be biased toward evidence that only support your thesis and ignore the evidence that does not. And lastly, it must be relevant. You must apply to the word that it must apply to the word that being discussed. And last, only cite the exact example or quotation. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhamad Arfan Ehsan bin Ameirul Esham, matches number 056171, and I will further explain about detecting bias in your writing. So, what is bias? Bias is an opinion that is based on preconceived ideas rather than evidence. So it may be based on our own emotions, our own attitudes, our own beliefs towards the subject. So it may lead you to see things the way that you want to see, and make you ignore evidence. There are many kinds of biases that we can detect. One of them is slanted languages. Slanted language is a language that is inflammatory or confrontational, and the easy way to explain it is a use of words to state a positive or a negative opinion. As an example, saying that a literary work is trash or stupid, which may be harsh. So we must avoid slanted languages because it is much more deceptive and manipulative rather than persuasive. So next is biased tone. It is a usage of a tone that may transmit bias towards the subject. Using these type of tones may give off vague evaluation. As an example would be the use of tone of anger or sarcasm. Next is stereotypes. Stereotypes is an overgeneralized idea about a subject. We should really avoid statements that extends stereotypes. A very common example could be taken in making an unjustified assumption about gender roles. Like saying that women should be in the kitchen, or thinking that men shouldn't be mentally weak. Last but not least is preconceived ideas. It is an idea formed prior of knowledge or without evidence. It is important to not let our own beliefs or viewpoints prevent us from acknowledging literary work. A good example would be Kate Chapin's The Storm, a short story in which two characters commit adultery. This might contradict from the people's common belief that husband and wife should be faithful to each other. But this should not prevent us from appreciating the literary strength of Kate Chapin's The Storm. So I believe that is all for me. I will pass it on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Muhammad Salihin bin Muhammad Noor, matrix number 055853. Inductive reasoning is a process that moves from specific facts, observations and experiences to a general conclusion. We use inductive reasoning in our writing if we want to lead the readers from a series of specific observations to a general conclusion. After reading the list of statements from John Updike's short story A and P, we can use inductive reasoning to reach a general conclusion about the theme of the story, which is that someone who wants to escape from a confining life must sometimes reject his community's value. No matter how much evidence we present, however, inductive reasoning is never certain, only probable. We arrive at an inductive conclusion by making inference, a statement about the unknown based on the known. Inductive leap is made to bridge the gap that exists between our specific observations and our general conclusion. If the gap is too wide, the readers will accuse you of making hasty generalization, a conclusion based on too little evidence. That's it, thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhamad Najmi Hazim bin Muhammad Rauzia, 056902 from Band 3B. Now I'm going to talk about deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is a method that moves to a particular conclusion from a general statement assumed to be valid or self-evident. In other words, it is so obvious that it needs no other proof. If they think their audience is more likely to be swayed by logic than by facts, authors use deductive reasoning. The process of deduction has traditionally been illustrated by a syllogism, a three-part set of statements or prepositions that includes a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. As an example, major premise: all tragic heroes have tragic flaws. Minor premise: Hamlet is a tragic hero. Conclusion: therefore, Hamlet has a tragic flaw. A syllogism major premise makes a general statement that authors believe to be true or self-evident. A specific example of the belief that is stated in the major premise is presented by the minor premise, and the conclusion should follow from the two premises if the reasoning is sound. Note that the conclusion should introduce no terms that have not already appeared in the major and minor premises. The benefit of a deductive argument is that they must necessarily grant the conclusion if readers accept the premises. When its conclusion logically follows from its premise, a syllogism is valid. When details it contains are consistent with the facts, a syllogism is true. A syllogism must be both valid and true to be sound. However, a syllogism can be valid without being true or true without being valid. Let me explain. So the following syllogisms, for example, is valid but not true. As an example, major premise: all poems contain rhymed lines. Minor premise. Walt Whitman's Had I the Choice is a poem. Conclusion. Therefore, Walt Whitman's Had I the Choice contains rhymed lines. Now let me explain. This syllogism is valid in the major premise. The phrase all poems establishes that the entire class poems contains rhymed lines. After Walt Whitman's Had I the Choice is identified as a poem, the conclusion that it contains rhymed lines logically follows. However, Whitman's poem, like many others, isn't rhymed. Since this syllogism's key assumption is not true, no inference based on it can be true. For this reason, while the logic of the syllogism is sound, it is not its conclusion. That's all for me. I shall pass it to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Muhammad Faiz bin Muhammad Faizal. My metric number is 056197. And for my part, I'm gonna be explaining about the Tolmans Logic or Tolmans argument. Tolmans argument was developed by a British philosopher, author, and educator goes by the name of Stephen Edelsten Tolman. What is Tolman's argument actually? It is a structure to analyze arguments in writing. It is being used when there are no clear truth or solutions to a problem. There are 6 elements for analyzing or presenting arguments when it comes to the Tolman method, which are claims, grounds, warrants, backing, qualifier, and rebuttal. So let's go one by one regarding these 6 elements. So the first one is claims. So the claims is a statement of opinion that the author is asking to the audience to accept as truth. So for example, the sentence like, there should be more laws to regulate texting while driving in order to reduce the number of car accidents. So there's a statement here to persuade the audience to think of it as a truth. And the second one is grounds. Grounds actually consist of facts, data, or reasoning upon which the claim is based. So basically, the grounds are facts making the case for the claim. For example, this is just probably a passage, So the example is like a sentence that is continuously formed based on the passage. So for the example, for the grounds, the Malaysian National Security Council estimates that 1.6 million car accidents per year are caused by mobile phone use and texting. So we have the data here, 1.6 million car accidents per year. There are facts here. So yeah, that's what it means by grounds. And the second one is warrant. What is warrant? Warrant is actually something that links the grounds to the claim. The grounds are, remember, the grounds are data and the claims are the statement. So it leads the audience to understand how the grounds are connected to support the claim. For example, being distracted by texting on a mobile phone while driving is very dangerous and causes accidents. So there are like link here for grounds and claims. And the second one is backing. So backing actually provides additional support for the claim by addressing different questions related to the author's claim. For example, with greater penalties and more education about the consequences, people might be more aware about the danger of texting and driving. So that there's like additional support, some elaboration by addressing different questions relating to the claim. And next one is qualifier. So qualifier is actually the limits to the claim, or to lead the audience to understand that the claim is not true in every situation. Like, even though the purpose of it is to like lead the audience to believe that the statement is true, but qualifier exists to make the audience understand that it is not true in most of situations. It adds strength to the claims because they help the audience to understand the author does not expect her or his opinion to be true most of the time. So, for example, there should be additional laws to regulate texting or driving in order to reduce the number of dangerous car accidents that happen each year. And then the last one is a rebuttal. Rebuttal is used when the author addresses the opposing views. It prevents counter arguments, and then it makes the original argument stronger. Like, when we're reading or writing, we will question a lot of things that the author is saying. So let's say when it comes to this topic, like texting and driving, even though the author said that we need to increase the number of laws and make the penalties exist more, so the audience might question that, what if the police officers are like all busy and everything? So this is where rebuttal plays its part. For example, the author can say, although police officers are busy already, making anti-texting laws a priority will save time, money, and lives. Local departments could add extra staffs to manage this issue. So this just debunks the counter arguments that's gonna come from the audience. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhamad Syahmi bin Halil Sharizam. My metric number is 055442, and I'll be talking about recognizing logical fallacies. Well, what is logical fallacies? Well, logical fallacies are flawed argument. It is when a writer who inadvertently uses such fallacies when he's not thinking clearly or logically. In other words, it also means that a writer who intentionally uses them is trying to deceive the readers. Well, today we will learn on how to recognize them so you can avoid these mistakes when you do your writing. Now I'll be talking about the common logical fallacies. First of all is hasty generalization. It is a form of induction that reaches a conclusion on the basis of insufficient evidence. For example, one appearance of a river in a poem is not enough to support the statement that it is an important symbol. Several mentions, however, might justify this conclusion that the river is an important symbol in a poem. Okay, next I'll be talking about sweeping generalization. It is a generalization that cannot be supported no matter how much the evidence is supplied. For example, the statement, all literary critics like August Wilson's play. It is a sweeping generalization. Certainly, many critics like Wilson's play, but it is virtually impossible to prove that all do like his play. To avoid making such statements that cannot be supported, qualify your statements with words such as some, many, often, or most, but not all. Next, I will talk about the ad hominem. In which is also meant to argument to the person. It is a fallacy occurs when you attack a person rather than the issue. For example, many critics see Imagism as a very important literary movement. However, the fact that its founder, Ezra Pound, was a Nazi sympathizer challenges that assessment. Although you find Pound's Nazi sympathies repugnant, his political ideas are not relevant to your evaluation of Imagism. Next is sequitur, a conclusion that does not logically follow from what comes before it. For example, John Updike wrote critically acclaimed novels, so he must have been a gifted poet. It does not logically follow that just because Updike wrote good novels, he also wrote good poetry. That is either or fallacy. It is a fallacy that occurs when a complex issue is presented as if it has only two sides. For example, if you ask your reader to consider whether a character is good or evil, you commit this fallacy. A complex character may possess both positive and negative qualities, which can also mean as an anti-hero. Next up is begging the question. It is a fallacy that occurs when you present a debatable premise as if it were true. For example, Hemingway's negative portrayal of women have caused his popularity to decline in recent years. Yes, Hemingway's portrayal of women may be negative, but readers do not have to accept this statement as a fact just because you say it is true. Before you can make a judgment based on assertion, you must support it with examples from Hemingway's works, as well as with statements from a fair range of literary critics. Next is bandwagon. It is a fallacy that occurs when you try to establish that something is true just because everyone believes it. For example, one of the ways to identify this fallacy is when you say that a certain literary work must be good because it is so popular. Okay, that is all from us. I hope you enjoy it and you learn something new and understand it. And yeah, that's it. And have a wonderful day.